Yeah. The most interesting part about this, of course, is that when 9/11 happened, George W. Bush's approval rating shot up. There was a rallying of the flag moment in America. He got a 91% approval rating. Right now in Israel, the current government has an 85% disapproval rating. Now, of course, some people are mad because like they're not violent enough or they're not brutal enough. Others are simply mad because how could you just drop the ball on security? Some are mad because what the fuck do you think was going to happen after so much occupation? Like, we have to de-escalate. We have to de-escalate. The de-escalation calls were coming from inside the Israeli security apparatus, you know? And while there is a multitude of different opinions internally inside of Israel to varying degrees, no such multitudes exist in the Western world, which is odd. With the exception of Ireland, I have yet to see any kind of like reason, like calls for de-escalation. The calls for de-escalation are marginal. It's oftentimes not represented in mainstream media. And not only are they marginal, but also they are being shot down fairly aggressively, which we will be talking about. Like Karine Jean-Pierre, we will talk about in a second. It was crazy. I'm a Palestinian in the West Bank, and it's insane that even though Hamas doesn't control the area, we're still being punished by closing checkpoints and border crossings to Jordan. Collective punishment here is the norm. Yes. Palestinians in the West Bank are being murdered by settlers right now. That's another inflection point that is going to be worse. The notion that the U.S. State Department is what? Holy fuck, that is so crazy. Senior Foreign Affairs reporter. Okay, let's just get started. Let's just get started. I'm gonna blast off and we'll dive right into it. Okay. After killing 4, UN gets evacuation orders from Israel, northern Gaza. As death toll rises, West refuses de-escalation. Okay. Yes, I saw the GOP rep wearing the IDF uniform. Dude, Americans are so crazy. Americans are so bloodthirsty. We are a disgusting group of individuals, let me tell you. Okay? Yeah, Israel's doing America shit right now. This is like the most America shit you can do. This is Doctors Without Borders, chat. Breaking news. Israel's given the Al Auda hospital just 2 hours to evacuate. Our staff are still treating patients. We unequivocally condemn this action. The continued indiscriminate bloodshed and attacks on healthcare in Gaza. We are trying to protect our staff and our patients. That's the most America thing you can do. I just wanted to quickly say that I think Leftovers is an extremely valuable podcast. I always learn so much, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I think so too. I think people were being fucking ruthless to Ethan on Twitter and Ela. Like, I think ultimately I get why tensions are high, and I understand why you look at the situation and you go, like any kind of counter in one of the very brief moments where someone is like rooting for Palestinian emancipation should completely be like untouched and unvarnished, and you can't offer any pushback. Like any kind of pushback is like bad and wrong, and I think that is not that's not nice. It's not kind. It's not a decent way to have this conversation in the Western world, for sure. Like, Ethan was being pretty bad faith at the end there, specifically with a clip of you blinded by bad logic, but he still didn't like come at you too bad as a hard convo. No, he immediately recognized that he was in the wrong, like immediately. About the systemic incarceration, sexual violence that occurs in systemic incarceration. Would you have breakfast? I don't have breakfast. So I think people are being very aggressive towards like Ethan is not like the most outspoken anti-Zionist activist or anything, but with respect to the overarching sentiment coming from America, I think he is empathetic to. I think he is empathetic to Palestinians being ruthlessly slaughtered. That's not even a thing that people think. So you get fatigued when constantly covering stuff like this? Yes. This is, I mean, look, over the course of the past 10 years, I've covered a lot of conflict. I've covered a lot of death and destruction. Obviously, violence of this magnitude happens quite frequently all around the world. It's just, I guess it's a little bit different when it's happening at the hands of it's happening at the hands of people that you know, like people that you can identify with, and so publicly, and your government officials and your tax dollars are going to facilitate this violence, this ethnic cleansing, and the entire Western world that hails itself as these like supposedly elitist, supposedly liberal, tolerant, educated, peace-loving people, which of course the global South knows has never been the case, are on the one hand simultaneously claiming that they are in support of peace in the so-called free world, while simultaneously saying some of the most bloodthirsty, most violent things that I have ever seen. It's like watching the Trail of Tears happen in real time. It's like watching ethnic cleansings happen in real time, where those who are being ethnically displaced or ethnically cleansed have fucking phone cameras and they can show you that they're being blown to pieces. Israel will cut off internet services in Gaza soon. Israel is now bombing bus convoys of Palestinians they told to flee to the south of Gaza. 70 killed so far. Thousands aimlessly walk while bombs drop around them. My friend said internet will be cut off in a few hours with no more contact. I hope these are not my last words to you. Yeah, last night we saw some of the Palestinians basically saying goodbye. The World Health Organization pleads for immediate reversal of Gaza evacuation in order to protect the health and reduce suffering. Yeah. It's like no one, these are, first of all, it took you this many days to say it. Like, that's crazy. Okay. This genocide will only continue if the Western media structure remains the way it is. I might be misinformed, but is there much leftist organizing push to at least demonopolize the media in the U.S.? Wouldn't that even help in any way? No, there is no, that will never happen anyway. I'm an Israeli American and I genuinely enjoy engaging in diverse viewpoints, which is why I frequently watch your videos and Al Jazeera Plus when it comes to the Palestinian Israeli conflict. Recently, I came across a video titled Americans in Jerusalem are assisting in the displacement of Palestinians. It's refreshing to encounter videos that aren't typically featured in mainstream media. Regrettably, I can't provide a direct link here. Yeah, no, we've covered that already quite a bit. So But yes, that is like that is the policy on the peaceful side of peaceful coexistence on the two state side, and what that looks like. That is, of course, Israel refusing to follow on the original deals that were brought to the table, oftentimes with a third party involvement of like the Western world, reneging on said offers time and time again, and then continuing to brutally occupy the West Bank and instill an apartheid regime has created chaos time and time again. Even Shin Bet officials and Israeli officials internally that are worried about internal Israel security have said that this occupation, even if you don't fully fucking end it, needs to be brought back a little bit, needs to be scaled back time and time again. And it has not. It's only gotten more ruthless. It's only gotten more brutal. And now, you see some of the inevitable consequences of that. There are articles right now claiming that this ethnic cleansing was Hamas's plan, and they basically goaded Israel into doing this. Storming Gaza will fulfill Hamas's wish. Yeah, they want everyone. Hamas's plan is what? The same as Israel's plan then, like ethnic cleansing and displacement, so that Israel can build a new parking lot on Gaza. Breaking, the BBC says this journalist and what? Yeah, BBC says journalists were assaulted and held at gunpoint after being stopped by Israeli police in Tel Aviv. Listen, dude. They have not stopped. They why would they? Why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they do that? No, actually, why wouldn't they do that? No one is scaling the Israeli forces back at all. They're like, hey guys, they've been hurt, they've been harmed. This is their 9/11. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Is the attitude? Why did Israeli intelligence failed so disastrously? Okay, I wanna watch this and I wanna see it. Yeah. It's unchecked. It's completely unchecked. It's completely gotten out of control. It is complete fucking. Oh, here, this is the statement from the Reuters PR team. We are deeply saddened to learn that our videographer Issam Abdallah has been killed. Issam was a part of a Reuters crew in southern Lebanon who was providing a live signal. We are currently seeking more information, working with authorities in the region, and supporting Issam's family and colleagues. Reuters journalists Taher al-Sudani and Maher Nazeh have also sustained injuries and are seeking medical care. So who killed him? How did this happen? How? How did this happen? How did this happen? Did it was just like a loose rocket? Is that what happened? It's crazy. Oh, is that the Luftwaffe photo? Is that what you're showing? Oh, I saw this. Yeah, the Luftwaffe photo. Joining Minister Baerbock on her trip to Israel together. Like, I did not realize that they had the Iron Cross on their fucking official military still. Like, is this real? Or is this like like I saw this photo and I was like, is this a joke? It's crazy how this conflict is now moving towards ethnic cleansing. Brother, it has never moved away from that. It's just, if there is a dial, if there's an ethnic cleansing dial and an ethnic displacement dial, okay, it just gets cranked up and then dialed back. The Israeli security apparatus calls it mowing the lawn. Anytime they crank it up and then they dial it back, crank it up, dial it back, crank it up, dial it back. Right now, it's not even maxed out yet, but it's close.
Hiding in
Here, I mean, a opinion you are not going to hear. The son of a missing Israeli peace activist says that his mother would be mortified by the situation in Gaza and that the vengeance is not a strategy.
In her closet. And she was hiding in her closet. And we decided to stop talking on the phone so she wouldn't be heard. And we wrote each other, and until she wrote me there inside the house. And then we just said our goodbyes. I wrote her, I'm with you. She wrote back, I feel you. 10:54, that was the last message.
What would your mother think of what's happening in Gaza now?
She would be mortified. Because you can't cure killed babies with more dead babies. We need peace. That's what she was working for all her life. I don't want people to hear what I'm saying in Israel. I stand by my message. But my friends, how can you not want, everybody to die? Pain is pain. And I talk with people from the kibbutz and we cry together. You can't mend that. But the only way to have safety and to...
See, scapegoating? Wait, what do you mean? There is no more moral clarity that you could ever have from someone who has been directly victimized. And yet still, even in that moment where his emotions are supposed to be much higher than you, his emotions are supposed to be much higher than the majority of people. Hamas threatened him to say this. You can see, dude, some of you guys are fucking insane. Yeah, Hamas threatened him. Really? That's the guy? This guy's a Hamas guy saying that? This is the Hamas guy? Is that what you're saying? At Channel 4 News? What kind of fucking brain dead nonsense are you guys operating on? Bro, Channel 4 is Hamas now? That's crazy. It's insane. And this is far from, he is far from alone on this position. You've heard this from you've heard this from people who are you've heard this from people who've had their children kidnapped. Literally, as soon as, even before Israel started its bombing campaign, one of the fathers whose daughter was kidnapped by Hamas went on television and said, I am afraid that the counter to this from the Israeli government is going to lead to more death and destruction in Gaza, and I am sad for them. I'm sad for them. I grieve for them.
Pain. And I talk with people from the kibbutz and we cry together. You can't mend that. But the only way to have safety and to live good lives is with peace. Vengeance isn't a strategy.
An Irish survivor of the attack by Hamas whose 8-year-old daughter was killed.
We found Emily. She's dead. And I went, yes! I went, yes, and smiled. Because that is the best news of the possibilities that I knew. That was the best possibility that I was hoping for.
And we actually spoke with one man, originally from Ireland, who was separated from his 8-year-old daughter. She had gone to a sleepover at a friend's house who also lived in the kibbutz. And he described to us the agonizing moment after.
This is what Ethan was talking about, by the way. Kibbutz is like a communal formation, and a lot of those dudes in those villages are not like militant formations in the same way that like the settlers are. They're just like a farming village community. It's you say fucking settlers, but like if it's a kibbutz inside of a fucking inside of like barely formed, barely developed fucking Israel proper, it's very different than like the settler formations that you see in the West Bank. It's just a fucking commune. The original idea of kibbutz, by the way, was literally it was supposed to be a communist one, and was supposed to literally occupy areas that people didn't live in. Like there was some of your famous favorite anti-Zionist Jewish thinkers, from Bernie Sanders, well, who is not an anti-Zionist, but you know he's more of a soft anti-Zionist. But regardless, to Noam Chomsky and many others have literally fucking lived in kibbutzes. It's a communal space. It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be weaponized against Palestinians. They're cooperative. They're communes. They're cooperative formations. A lot of those people are just like fucking chill ass farmers and shit. Okay? Yeah, they're like the hippies. Now, the reason why people misunderstand it is that like some of those kibbutzes literally fucking predate 1948. Some of those kibbutz formations are, stop saying on stolen land. Listen to me. I don't think you're understanding. Like I get the way that you want to talk about it. Okay? But there is nuance to this situation. You're ridiculous for just like for writing it off, because you're also wrong. You're literally wrong. The original kibbutz strategy was supposed to be like putting Jewish people from Europe that were escaping pogroms or the Holocaust into kibbutz formations that were on areas where no one was actually living there. It was not supposed to be like displacing Palestinians. As a chatter a couple days ago correctly talked about, a land for, what was it, like a land for no people, for a people with no land was originally supposed to be about putting populations into areas where no one was actually, like no one was like living there. The kibbutzim were founded by the members of the Bilu movement who immigrated to Palestine, like the members of the first Aliyah who came before them and established agricultural villages. Most members of the second Aliyah planned to become farmers, almost the sole career available in the agrarian economy of Ottoman Palestine. And the original the original formations were not like supposed to be viciously ethnically displacing Palestinian people. Some of those kibbutz people are literally the most anti-Zionist anyway. It is certainly more complicated. They were not there during the Ottoman era, meaning they were European settlers that came during British colonialism. Stop defending them. Palestine is for Arabs only, not Europeans. Okay, I want to maintain a position here. When I say I'm a one-stater, okay, I am for a single-state solution. I want to present something to you. Make no mistake, this does not mean that my one-state solution means a cleansing or a forcible displacement of all Jews that are currently living in occupied in the occupied Israeli 1948 territories. Okay, it's there's no way you can do that. That is impossible, and that's wrong on top of that, okay? If it is wrong to ethnically displace Palestinian people during the Nakba and the Arabs during the Nakba, it is also wrong to try to forcibly, and also frivolous to even make this argument because it's never going to fucking happen anyway, but it's also wrong to try and make this argument that they deserve to also be displaced. Not only that, but it also feeds into the hands of people. It feeds into the hands of people who maintain the position that, like, that's the goal, that's the ultimate goal, is to just wipe out every Jew. A one-state solution for me means giving reparations to Palestinians, allowing a right to return for all Palestinians globally, okay, and having a singular state where everyone has equal rights and equal representation. Now, when you present this idea, which is the best possible idea, most people will say, and it's a singular secular state, not a Jewish one, and not a Muslim one, obviously, which, would not happen regardless. So the idea that we can't reach that conclusion is one that people often directly place the blame on the Palestinian side. If you're in the fucking Western world, there is no reason for you to also continue on with this narrative. By the way, people say two-state solution. I have this conversation with my Jewish American normie friends all the time, not like anti-Zionist ones, but normie ones all the time, and they'll be like, two-state solution. They say the inverse of this, where they say two-state solution would turn into like a mass displacement of Jews because there's more Muslims, and then they would turn around and turn it into a Muslim state, and then they would start ethnically cleansing the Jews. This is a very real fear that American Jews have and Israelis have as well. That's like why they claim, whether it's correct or not, that's why they claim that you can never have a one-state solution, let alone a one-state solution that revolves around the maintenance of a secular state. Okay? And this fear is irrational because, and most importantly because, there have been plenty of circumstances where a minority has ruled forcibly an area that they originally had emigrated to. South Africa, the South African apartheid, right? The South African apartheid is a great example of this. So even if you tried to do a one-state solution, a secular state, and you got worried that like there were going to be too many Palestinians or too many Muslims, and it was going to become this like fundamentalist place where Jews are going to be ethnically cleansed, don't worry. You can go back to the apartheid state that you are already in. So, so moving in the direction of a one-state solution, okay? Moving in the direction of a one-state solution would quite literally be a better way for the cessation of violence, and would be the only reasonable way to get out of the circumstance, except, for all the Israelis who are afraid, they can always go back to the current apartheid regime that they have. You know what I mean? Like, so the only thing you have left to lose in that circumstance is basically going back to the exact same formation that you have thus far. This slogan persists to this day because it was never meant to be literal, but colonial and ideological. This phrase is yet another formulation of the concept of terra nullius, meaning nobody's land in one form or another. This concept played a significant role in legitimizing the erasure of the native population virtually in every settler colony and laying down legal and moral basis for seizing native land. Bullshit. Why Muslims did not kill Christians? Many Muslims and Christians living together in mere Arab country. My friend, Muslims also didn't kill Jews either. I don't think people know the history of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is the caliphate. And the Ottoman Empire, quite literally, was one of the only fucking safe havens for Jews historically when the European dogs were fucking mercilessly butchering and doing pogroms on Jews. they would come to the Ottoman Empire for safe haven. This is historically accurate, for the record, for those of you who don't fucking know. That's why there were Jews in Palestine already. 11% of historic Palestine under Ottoman rule was Jewish. The fuck do you mean? Yes, Spanish Inquisition and Russian pogroms, Jews came to the Ottoman Empire. So the invention of like anti-Semitism, which is very real. There is definitely anti-Semitism in the Arab world, just like there's anti-Semitism everywhere, okay? But anti-Semitism in the Arab world specifically has heightened since the inception of a Jewish nation state that was designed to be a Jewish nation state. Even though it should not be one, it should be a secular nation state for Jews and for everyone. I mean, it's always funny to, like, I've heard from other people that say, like, Germans love, like, the German government especially loves the invention of Israel because they can always point to, like, yeah, no, like, it's not us that fucking hate Jewish people. It's those guys, those Arabs, right? And it's like, fuck you mean, dude? No one historically has mistreated Jews less than Arabs. The anti-Semitism in the Arab world, in the anti-Semitism in the Muslim world, in the global Muslim world, is a relatively recent phenomena in the grand history, in the much larger history. It exists and has only heightened in the aftermath of the Nakba. Why are so many Muslims against Jews then? A lot of European countries just asking, I really don't understand what I just described to you. And also, I mean, it's mostly what I just described to you, but also on top of that, oftentimes, this is the exact opposite. This is the diametrical opposite in America. But in European formations, like you end up building Muslim enclaves rather than regular integration. Okay. And a lot of the Muslims in Europe, and I'm saying this off of like my understanding of Turkish diaspora in Germany, for example, they are way more intolerant and way more reactionary than the larger Turkish population on many issues. Again, this is a very complicated issue. If we are going to talk about like the historic precedent and all this stuff, it's not as black and white as you think it is.
After 2 days of waiting for answers, he was rescued. He finally found out that his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, had been killed.
She was either dead or...
Oh, yeah, this is true. After the Ottoman Empire fell, the Arab nationalization threatened a lot of Christians and committed massacres in Syria, forced Christians to modern-day Lebanon in the 1890s and 1900s, also forcing the diaspora of Christian Arabs. Ottoman Empire's staunch anti-nationalism had created safe havens. Yes. Like, listen, the Ottoman Empire, this is why if you ask fucking historians, the Ottoman Empire was still an empire. Of course, it's brutal. There is no right to self-autonomy. There's no like nationalism, and nationalist movements ultimately were seen as like liberatory, emancipatory movements, and there is truth to that, right? Because we were at that point living in a fucking post-colonial world. It was supposed to be a post-colonial world. Okay. But are people here aware that Muslims in Turkey have always had a tendency to make a distinction between Jews and Zionists? I mean, I don't know how much that tendency or that distinction works now, but it doesn't matter. Chomsky also has talked about how the Israel-Lebanon border was barely a border 60 years ago, but now it's one of the most fortified borders in the world. Please describe the Nakba to the chatters. We've talked about it before. The formation of the modern Israeli state, as you understand it, under British mandate, occurred with horrific displacement and violence and rapes. Mass atrocities took place. Palestinians were ripped away from their homes, forcibly gunned down, killed, raped, kidnapped, and those who were able to escape were never allowed back into to their homes. They left with their keys. Famously, they left with the keys to their houses, and they kept those keys, thinking that they would be able to return. That's why a lot of organizations, like Palestinian organizations, will often have symbolically they'll talk about the keys. Not mentioning Nakba war was started by all of Israel's neighbors. What? What are you talking about? I like that there's always like a reason for why so much ethnic displacement occurred, and that reason never actually 67 war chatter, 48 was Nakba. I know. He's talking about the 67 war, but again, it's never the Palestinians. He's just the kibbutz near Gaza were placed strategically before and after the Nakba. Even NPR states that. Ottomans even banned blood libel that Europeans were introducing. By the way, the kibbutz near Gaza were placed strategically before and after the Nakba. Even NPR states that. Yeah, but ultimately, if something has happened in fucking 1948 through horrific means, it's not a real solution to be like, no, those to treat children like they are enemy combatants in that regard is never going to do anything. I understand why that violence occurs and I analyze it, but an analysis is not a justification. Understanding historical perspective is incredibly important, but that is simply analysis. That is not a justification in general. Okay? And if you are looking for legitimate solutions, or if you're asking me what the legitimate way out of this is, I will always say the same. Palestinians deserve to have a right to return. They have a right to live in the same areas that they lived in. They have a right to equal rights and equal representation under a secular nation state where Jews, Israelis that immigrated after 1948, and Muslims can live side by side. This is the only way to legitimately stop the violence in its entirety. Not a two-state solution, but a one-state solution. Why don't you react to Ben Shapiro? I did. What do you mean? Did you do another video? Anyway. But ultimately, here's the thing. It doesn't actually really change anything. The idea of like the way people talk about Israel now is like settlers, they're all settlers or not. Like the way we cover this in the Western world is so far removed. You know, sen ciddi misin yoksa troll müsün? Filistin neler yaptığını ve Yahudilerin neler çektiğini tekrar hatırlatırım sana. Yapma ya. Türklere bak. İnanamıyorum. But then Jews won't have a homeland or a safe space if it's secular. See, this is not correct. This is not correct, especially when like the founding fathers of Zionism were not necessarily Orthodox Jews or anything. They were not like Jewish hardliners. They were fucking secular. What the hell are you talking about? The irony is that the non-secular attitude, maintaining that this is a Jewish state, is literally the reason why it has become so much more violent and is actually causing harm to the liberal Zionists that live inside of Israel. Why do you think they fucking protested for like months when they had a constitutional crisis? What are you talking about? Like, how do you not recognize that, like, creating a religious state that is openly a religious state and trying to maintain a religious state is only going to lead to more reactionary attitudes? Look at fucking Iran, born out of American involvement in Iran. Look at the situation in Iran now. Do you think that that is a good situation? Do you think that's a good form of governance? Of course not. So why the fuck would you champion that unless you think that, like, somehow more radical rabbis are not going to be able to seize on the more reactionary elements in any kind of Jewish societal formation? Like, you think that inevitably it is not going to become more and more reactionary? Well, open up your fucking eyes and take a look at what has happened in Israel. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it's crazy to me that, like, while this is ongoing, the in the Western world, like, they're saying, like, all manner of the defense of Palestinians as, like, the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign continues. Any matter of defense of Palestinians is considered to be unjust and violent, inherently violent. And I think that that is so totally fucked up, so incredibly fucked up. Shame on our leadership for not only turning a blind eye to the atrocities, but deliberately turning a blind eye to the atrocities. Shame on America. Shame on France, the supposed fucking elitist, liberal democracies in the fucking West. They've shown their asses time and time again, and they're showing it one more time now. Anyway, this is the person whose daughter was killed by Hamas militants.
Dead or in Gaza. And if you know anything about what they do to people in Gaza, that is worse than death. That is worse than death. The way they treat you. They'd have no food. They'd have no water. She'd be in a dark room filled with Christ knows how many people, and terrified every minute, hour, day, and possible years to come. So death was a blessing, an absolute blessing.
This guy's saying that he's literally saying that it is more fortunate to have died in the hands of Hamas militants than have to live under Israeli occupation or a relentless Israeli bombing campaign. That is so fucking nutty. This dude would prefer her daughter dead? No, he's saying that if she was going to die in either circumstance, it would be better off a swift death rather than one that one where she had to live like a Palestinian, which is a crazy thing to say. That's not what he's saying. No, that is what he's saying. He's Irish. He's saying at least she didn't have to suffer if death is inevitable. This is not a good thing in general. I think he's saying it's better than Hamas torturing her and raping her for years on end. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Why wouldn't he just say that then? Why wouldn't he just say, rather than Hamas torturing and raping her, and instead say no food? Like,
You know anything
she would not have any
about what they do
food
to
in
people in Gaza?
about what they do to people in Gaza.
That is worse than death.
What
That
he
is
very
worse than death.
he very clearly defines what he means, I think. The way they treat you.
They'd have no food.
They'd have no food.
water.
They'd have no water.
She'd be in a dark room filled with Christ knows how many people, and terrified every minute, hour, day, and possible years to come.
You meant torture, moron? Am I misunderstanding what he's saying? She was either dead or in Gaza. And if you know anything about what they do to people in Gaza, No, I don't think he's talking about what they do to hostages. I think he means like most MSM outlets cut out the part where he expands on what he means, so it implies he was describing torture. What's the do you guys have? I mean, look, I might be totally wrong on this. Does he is there a longer video? I might be wrong. I maybe I misunderstood it. He's talking about living conditions in Gaza. No, I mean there must be more, right? There must be more to this than just that. That clip. I'm sure he expands on it more. Yeah, what they do to people in Gaza: 1, torture; 2, terrorists; 3, hostages. I don't know if that is what he's talking about, because the way he worded it is ambiguous. But maybe I mean, it could be. I mean, regardless if it's Gaza living or Hamas torture, the situation that she's awful, and death, swift death is preferable, is what he said. Oh,
Yes,
this
it's
is
like
yeah.
difficult. We're 6 siblings, and not easy for us.
Noy Katzman, may Chaim's memory be a blessing. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes. So what I wanted to say is the most important for me, and I think also for my brother, was that his death won't be used to kill innocent people. And sadly, my government is using cynically the death of people to just kill. Like they promised us it's gonna bring us like security, but of course it's not security, because they always tell us, oh, that if we're gonna kill enough Palestinians, or so it's gonna be better for us. But of course it never brings us peace, and it never brings us better lives. It just brings more and more terror and more people killed, like my brother.
By the way, this in and of itself is like not a position that is shared by Americans. And I don't mean like American Jews. I mean Americans in general. Americans are more aggressive than like direct victims of direct violence in certain instances. The bravery that this person is exhibiting is unimaginable. The moral clarity that he is exhibiting in this moment is insane, okay? It defies like human comprehension, which is why I get very frustrated when people immediately rush to be like, well, you know, everyone is a violent person. Everyone's a fucking piece of shit. Now, obviously, having this conversation right now as like bombs are fucking dropping in Gaza and Gaza is being leveled and the entire fucking universe is pretty much watching it step by step while simultaneously asking for more. And even the State Department is like releasing information that declares it illegal to say de-escalation ceasefire. Hours after Israel ordered an exodus in Gaza, State Department officials circulated internal warnings against 3 phrases: no de-escalation, no ceasefire, no end to violence and bloodshed, and restoring calm. It is the latest sign that the U.S. won't urge Israeli restraint. Think about that. This is like when you talk about having a humane criminal justice system and people are like, what if someone killed your family member? Americans are animals. I know. And yet that person in that very moment is behaving in the exact opposite way. Please read Howard Zinn's take from this interview in 2010. I recommend scrolling to the question, how do you discuss Israel and Palestine with Jews who might be resistant to claim that Israel bears responsibility for the conflict? I mean, look, I've seen Saeed had a really good take on this as well about the as
retaliatory.
He had a really good take on this as well, Edward Saeed, where it's not like like an anti-Zionist movement does not mean the purging of all Jews that now live in Israel proper. Okay? It doesn't mean that. Not only is it unrealistic and it will never happen, it's also immoral at a certain point. It's the same concept behind like land back movements, not meaning that like Native Americans can come in and fucking kill you in your house and take over your house. Okay? It's about offering land and protection of land, and also offering equal rights and equal representation and reparations to people so that we can peacefully coexist. It is silly, especially after all is said and done. But I think Americans are incredibly violent fucking people, so they don't see it in any other way. They only see like violence because our culture is very violent. Our lives are very violent. There's mass fucking shootings happening all the goddamn time. There's so much violence that we have dished out that the inevitable consequence of that is for that violence to come back and haunt us as well. We have a very broken spirit here. We have our psyches, our collective psyche on violence is insane. We're so fucking bloodthirsty. If all of Western media is unequivocally pro-Israel and every Western government is unequivocally pro-Israel and banning Palestinian protests and giving Israel permission to do whatever they want, who do you think controls this shit? Just please answer honestly. If you think that any of this means that like Jews control the media, you are a silly, stupid anti-Semite. Jews do not control the media. Capitalists control the media. Capitalists have an interest in maintaining a destabilizing force in the Middle East. They want a fucking base, and they want... No, it's not Zionist Israel that controls the media. You are so silly. You are incredibly silly when you say stuff like this, okay? Don't try to fucking mask it under, like, anti-Zionist sentiment as well. There is a reason for why America and the Western world operate the way they do. It is not because fucking Jewish people control any facet of American existence or Western existence, dumbass. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, dude, it's so crazy. You know, when Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman and fucking Boeing stocks skyrocket, that's the Jews pocketing that, right? No, idiot. It's capitalists. Silly, nonsensical bullshit. It's so funny. So do the Saudis control the media, you think? Chatter? Think about how deeply Islamophobic the Western world is. That was not simply born out of, white supremacy, even though white supremacy played a role in the justification, of course, and made it much easier to prop up Islamophobia as a really good way to conduct our war on terror. But how come Saudi Arabia never gets any of that shit? How come America defends Saudi operations or also turns a blind eye to Saudi's ongoing conflict or originally in Yemen? What happened there? Do the Sauds control the media now? Do Muslims? Is there a secret Islamic force controlling the fucking media too? Or is it simply capitalists and the interests of our foreign policy aligning perfectly with what the hyper right-wing Israeli ultra-nationalist government? The media does not support Saudi Arabia? Oh, really? That's so interesting you said that. That's so crazy. So when Mohammed bin Salman literally fucking killed a legal permanent resident who was a journalist for the Washington Post, and then he was able to come back to America a couple years later to do English-speaking interviews at a fucking golf course with Fox News, that was not a support for Saudi Arabia. Is that what you mean to tell me? Because even before the MBS murder, the MBS-backed assassination, the brutal assassination of the interview was in Saudi, but it was on Fox News. Is Fox News a Saudi government operation? Is that what you are trying to tell me? Even before the Jamal Khashoggi assassination, he did a charm offensive, as they called it. He went on and interviewed with The Atlantic and everywhere else, and he wore Western clothing and he was able to parade around America. What happened? Was it because there was a Saudi control? Was it the Muslim? The media loves Islam and Muslims. Is that why? No. Every Saudi interview till this day, they ask about Jamal. No one is justifying it like they do with Israel. Brother, asking that question while supporting, while giving a full-throated support to Saudi Arabia is nothing. Yes, being Muslim in the media implies that they will be more critical of you. They will allow to be more critical of you, but it doesn't matter at the end of the fucking day. The U.S. loves Saudi money more than they hate Muslims. Exactly. Oh, man, they ask about Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah, I know. Well, they don't anymore. Don't worry. It's just an idiotic point either way, because even if it were true that Jews control the media or Jews control the banks, it skips right over the fact that they wouldn't be motivated by Judaism or their ethnicity. They would be motivated by capitalism regardless. Even the delusional JQ takes just ultimately resolve to capitalism being the problem. Fascists are idiots. Exactly. The reason why anti-Semitism festers is because people are routinely devoid of a dialectical assessment, okay? There is no spiritual, monolithic, international Jewry that is operating with the same opinions, okay? You are a delusional fantasist, you are hysterical, and most likely a fucking Nazi. It is not because there is like a modus operandi, protocols of Zion. These guys are like fucking drinking blood or whatever the fuck that you have been told, okay? You're stupid. Also, if there was a group of individuals that dominate the world, it is not Jews, dumbass. It would still be white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, okay? It would be a WASP supremacy that dominates the world, okay? Read Aryan philosopher Hegel. Okay. Dialectical materialist thinking is what I should have said. Someone must ask the WASP question, okay? Now, notice how when I say that, everyone understands that that is a joke. You want to know why? Because it's the dominant in-group. That's it. It's the dominant in-group in perpetuity, which is precisely why no one would ever even take that seriously. Or if you try to take that seriously, you would be fucking stupid. Alan Dershowitz versus Cornel West. Spar over Israel-Hamas war. Nice. Yeah. America is such a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant nation that we've only had 2 fucking Catholics so far. And the last one was assassinated. Okay? We've had 2 Catholic presidents, and the last one was assassinated, and this one is holy moly. I mean, he's basically dead anyway. This is another instance of gamification in modern society. Americans are so far removed from the reality of conflicts. 100% you are correct on that. Okay? The only fucking conflict Americans are experiencing is the top of the hour ad break that they sometimes see. And they can avoid it easily too. They can subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime to avoid the top of the hour ad break that comes in the middle of the hour this time around. Okay? Thank you for spreading the message of the anti-Catholic Italian hate in this country. Exactly. I will always. Always and forevermore. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now. Nord Shark Saboteur, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. I want to know your thoughts on this. Let's say Hamas had focused on entirely military targets. Do you think Israel's response would be any less brutal? Of course not. Anyone who tells you that is fucking lying. Okay? Yeah, of course not. No. Israel reducing Gaza to rubble now is not new. This isn't new. They've done it time and time again, okay? It does not matter. You should be scared of Italy, damn it. Otherwise, we will surrender to you too. Anyway.
Strikes are underway tonight over Gaza. We are only beginning to learn the horrors suffered by the residents of Be'eri, a kibbutz in southern Israel that was one of the worst hit communities. More than 100 people there were killed, and officials expect to find even more victims as they search through the rubble. CNN's Clarissa Ward was able to gain access to that kibbutz. And
so, dude, everybody always goes, like, I know your point of, I want a point of view. Why does it feel like the more the candidate, the president proves loyalty to Israel, the higher chance it becomes the president in the U.S.? Brother, some of the largest defenders of the Israeli state and its most violent elements of settler colonial terrorism are white evangelical Protestants in the United States of America. More so than Jews, more so than American Jews, okay? People do not comprehend the reality of like how psychotic and how violent the WASP concept is, okay? And it's because of the rapture, chat. It's because of the rapture. And I know it sounds like a fucking insane thing to mention, but it is. That is the whole point. Like, they believe that Jews need to live there so that Jesus Christ can come back to earth and do the rapture and fight Shaitan, fight the devil in Megiddo. This is just like, where do you think the insane displacement? Where do you think the insane displacement is being funded by? It's not just the Israeli state. It's American 501c3s in like Texas. Fight the Antichrist. Yeah, exactly. It sounds like a joke, but you're talking about a country. I saw a tweet about this earlier. You're talking about a country that literally thinks that a global Islamic jihad is going to happen in their fucking Chili's, okay, in Duluth. So, it's funny. It's funny to look at it, take a deep breath, and like analyze it with a more reasonable, more tempered approach. But you can't. Okay. Americans think that the world is a fucking anime that happens to have them featured as the main character all the goddamn time. Like, they think that there is going to be a Islamic global jihad with like Hamas sleeper cells that have secretly snuck in through the Mexican border and like and they're going to blow up. They're going to blow up their fucking Burlington coat factory. Okay? And they're in the parking lot and they're trying to shove jalapeno poppers down their goddamn gullet as that explosion happens. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to consider how fucking stupid of an idea that is. And then you realize, like, probably around 30 to 40% of Americans believe that, okay? Like, they believe that in their fucking hearts. Do you understand me?
I want to bring in Mohammed El Kurd, who is
Mohammed is not responding to me, which, by the way, I mean, this is... but I will say to my community, at least, I have made attempts to have him on. But he's probably very busy trying to survive and also, speak out on these issues. Yeah, U.S. is urging Israel to abide by
Palestinian journalist and writer
by the rules of global
thank you,
conflict.
Mohammed,
Okay,
for joining us.
I'm gonna pee. I'll be back in a second.
We're watching these images from Gaza. Just tell me, what are you feeling as you witness what's going on?
I feel enraged to be watching this because it feels as though we are living through yet another Iraq war, with the mass hysteria being produced and manufactured by mass media, the kind of anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim sentiment spreading rapidly. And as the Israeli regime bombards civilians in the Gaza Strip, I mean, the death toll of children alone in the past 7 days has exceeded 500 children killed. And yet, your earlier colleague had the audacity to say that the people protesting in the street all around the world were protesting to be anti-United States and not because there are literally thousands of people killed in the Gaza Strip, because literally there are people in the Gaza Strip besieged. there were over 1 million people being told to evacuate their homes and neighborhoods, even though there are no cars, no ambulances, even though everything is being bombarded, and even though there is no place to run. I mean, they are being told to flee and leave the Strip and so on and so forth. But the Israeli regime has bombed the Rafah crossing into Egypt multiple times. It has prevented aid envoys from entering the Strip. This is not a warning. It is not a warning. It is just emptying, themselves, is preemptively excusing the genocide they're about to commit against millions of people in the BC's Gaza Strip.
Now, we're seeing these protests all around the world, from Arab communities and Muslim communities, angry, sad at what they're seeing. Can you just give us a sense of the depth of feeling, why people are coming out in their numbers? I think the protest that we're witnessing today in Amman, for instance, is one of the biggest I certainly have ever seen. Just give us a sense of
why are
how
these
people
Arabs
feel about what's...
Why are these Arabs protesting an ethnic cleansing occurring? I don't get it. Interesting.
going on?
I wonder.
I mean, people are devastated. We are talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of lives, millions of families that are experiencing.
The other side of this, by the way, not to cut off our friend here, but the other side of this is also because a lot of Arabs, not their leadership, but a lot of Arabs see what is happening to Palestinians and the refusal from the Western world, and are reminded of their own atrocities. They are reminded of their own plight in the hands of Western imperialists. They are reminded of what has happened in their own countries, because this has happened in every single Muslim majority nation, with the exception of, I would say, Turkey, because Turkey has always been an unequivocal defender and supporter of American imperialism, the NATO nation of Turkey. Okay? That's it. That's why they see it, and they're like, this is the same struggle that we have experienced. Why don't you talk to Subi Taha? You know I know him, right? Subi Taha is a fucking OG Hasanabi head for years and years. I could have him on. I should have him on, actually. I'm going to hit him up. Yeah, I've met him. I met him years and years ago at VidCon, I think. There was like an initiative for uplifting Muslim voices at it was like a YouTube initiative.
Experiencing war, millions of people who have
Good
lost
suggestion.
Entire families have been wiped off of the public record by the Israeli regime in the past 7 days. People are devastated, people are afraid for their loved ones, and it's not just Arabs and Muslims. This is not just Arabs and Muslims. This is all people of good conscience around the world rising up against war, against genocide, against escalation. This is what's happening. And if you've been looking at any Western media, UK, USA, in the past 1 week, you'll see images of Palestinian children murdered by the Israeli regime with headlines that will suggest that these are Israeli children. You'll see images of Palestinian residential buildings being bombarded and blown to bits with headlines that suggest that these are Israeli buildings suffering terrorism. There is manufacturing consent happening all over the world, but I have faith that people are not idiots. People can tell the truth when they see it. I mean, the images speak for themselves. I just want journalists around the world to do their jobs. We're not asking anybody a favor. We're just asking people to be truthful.
Mohammed El-Khod, we are doing our best, and that's part of the reason why we have people like you on the show. We're trying to speak to as many people as possible. Yeah. We feel the depth of feeling that you and as you say, not just Arabs and Muslim have, but a lot of people who are watching the images in Gaza, and we want your perspective as well. Quickly, though, can I ask, do you have, as you're the next generation of Palestinian, what do you feel is the solution for this? Can there be, what is it? Because I think the people watching around the world are watching this now with a sense of dread, because it feels like we're descending further into this deep, dark tunnel, which we so often see in this part of the world.
Al Jazeera reporter got fucked up by Israeli bombs. Al Jazeera about to spin the block. Yeah, okay, dude. That wouldn't be the first nor the last Al Jazeera reporter that gets killed by the IDF, whether by direct sniper fire or fucking bombing. They don't give a shit. By that I mean, like, nobody gives a shit about Al Jazeera's reporters. Let's be real, bro. a Reuters reporter was fucking assassinated by the IDF, and they didn't even like put the blame on the IDF. They just fucking said, "Oh, they died. We're looking at the circumstances." Anyway, I want to.
What do you think needs to happen?
The story did not begin and end with the past week. There has been a population of over 2 million people.
Wait, what did he say?
Into this deep, dark tunnel, which we so often see in this part of the world. What do you think needs to happen?
The story did not begin and end with the past week. There has been a population of over 2 million people being held hostage by the Israeli regime. Living under siege, living under blockade is not a sustainable solution. Neither is living behind a wall under military occupation where thousands of armed settlers roam the streets. Just today, a Palestinian was killed by an Israeli.
That's not a bad question. That's a really good question. I think asking a Palestinian what they think is the best way out of this is not the worst question at all. This is a great question. It's rarely one that is asked. They're not going, hey, do you condemn the fucking violence over and over again? So I'm happy. It's good to hear the perspective.
By an Israeli settler in Hebron, and 2 days ago, 2 Palestinians were killed by an Israeli settler in Nablus, and during their funeral, 2 more Palestinians were killed by settlers. Again, this has been happening every single day. I mean, my own family has lost.
That is not covered by Western media, and I think that is deliberate, and I think that is by design. I'll say that much. I think that the reason why they don't cover the settler violence in the West Bank is because that is the type of violence that Americans can comprehend. That's why I usually will cover the West Bank and the treatment of Palestinians in the West Bank, because settlers engaging in acts of violence against Palestinians in the West Bank are so devastating, and ones that like even Americans can comprehend, because it's very similar to like the mass atrocities that you see in your own backyard. Okay, but usually when I talk about that sort of thing, people don't even believe it. It is very eye-opening for a lot of people. It is very eye-opening for a lot of people when they see that, because they can't even comprehend it. They're like, what the fuck? You're telling me that like this has been a deliberate attempt to partition Palestinian land, that like the entire world is considering Palestinian land, and these guys have guns and they are completely unaccountable, and when they fucking kill Palestinians with the guns that they got from the government oftentimes, that they can just get away with it, and the IDF does nothing, and the IDF basically turns around and also continues gunning down the Palestinians because they have no legal obligation or responsibility to protect the Palestinians, even though they're like occupying this area.
Half of our home to settlers. This happens across the map to every single Palestinian, and the only solution to it is ensuring people have full rights, the right to movement, ending the occupation, ending the siege, allowing refugees to return to their homes, upholding all of these UN resolutions that all of these politicians parrot and talk about. And I just want to say to the viewer,
okay,
all of this equation between Hamas and ISIS, all of this talk about quote unquote beheading and raping people is just preemptively readying you to justify and write a blank check for Israeli genocide. Do not believe everything you see on these television screens. People are lying to you.
Mohammed Al-Kurd, thank you for your time. I should also, though, point out I've been to the south of Israel. I've met people. An attack happened on Saturday, and this is a response. One can agree or not agree to it, but it is, what happened on Saturday happened. But thank you very much for your time.
What? That's how you wrapped it up? Bro, what is happening? Like, that's really, you listened to this man's words and you had to be like, let me get a final word in edgewise. Ethnic cleansing is going to happen because of what happened on Saturday, and there's not really much we can do about it, I guess. What do you mean, believe it or not? The fuck? It is what it is, homie. Sorry. Your family members have to die, I guess.
I want to warn you that the video that we are about.
When the militants arrived at Be'eri kibbutz, surveillance footage shows them lying in wait until a car arrives. They shoot the driver and enter the compound.
It's censored, but still.
More poured in on motorcycles, eerily at ease and in no apparent hurry. Thomas Hand heard the gunshots and immediately thought of his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, who was staying with a neighbor.
She doesn't do it very often, but unfortunately that night, that particular night, the Friday night, she went to sleep at her friend's house.
For 12 hours, he says he was pinned down under heavy gunfire, unable to reach his daughter, as Hamas went door to door, executing his neighbors.
Waiting. I'm thinking the army are going to be here.
Like, there's no that this violence is an inevitability, but that does not mean, when I say that this violence is an inevitability, that does not mean that this is a justified thing. Okay? I need people to understand the distinction. It is not, it is horrific, it's monstrous, and the Israeli government is every bit responsible for it. That is also the type of violence that every day, every single day, Palestinians in the West Bank under Israeli authority, illegal authority of the Israeli government, experience. That is the type of violence that it's less personal, but still the type of violence that exists in Gaza. That is the violence that begets violence.
Soon, just hold on a bit longer and longer and longer.
By the time the military gained control of Be'eri, this is what remained of the once tranquil community.
It was mind-boggling to me. That the first step of action from the Israeli government when Palestinian militants, Hamas, had taken up positions inside of Israel proper, in kibbutzes and in police precincts, and their immediate reaction was not to stop that and to defend Israeli citizens, but instead immediately start shelling Gaza. That was their first action. Their first action was to immediately start shelling Gaza. It blows my fucking mind. How do you blame Israel for Arab terrorists? Because, unlike you, okay, I understand how violence occurs. You have a simple way of thinking about it, where you think it's got to be because people are bad, and that's why they're doing it. They're bad. They're anti-Semitic. There's no other reason for it. They just want to kill all Jewish people. Okay? That is no way to actually try and stop additional violence from occurring, because you do not want to analyze this from the framework of people who have never seen an Israeli person in their entire fucking lives. Make no mistake, this is not a justification. Okay? So this fucked up religious extremism has nothing to do with it, right? Religious extremism is seasoning on top of the actual circumstances. It is just a simple call to action that is very effective. Religious extremism in the Israeli government is used as a way to further justify oppressive tools of the state. Religious extremism on the Hamas side, okay, the fundamentalism on the Islamist fundamentalism on the Hamas side is also yet a simple call to action. Religious extremists in the United States of America do 3%er, Navy gravy seal tactics, and then go eat jalapeno poppers. They go to fucking Burger King. They don't go and institute or facilitate in unjustifiable acts of violence. Lone wolf attacks and stochastic terrorism still occurs in America because we're a very violent country, but the overwhelming majority of religious fundamentalists here are just simply going around and eating burgers Why are they not going around and mercilessly and ruthlessly slaughtering everyone they declare their enemies? Perhaps it has something to do with our material conditions. I don't know. Think about it. Think about it this way. You can comprehend radicalization and the anger that people feel when they're wrong. If you can comprehend that, then try to expand upon that and try for a single fucking moment to see how you would react if you were born into a fucking open air prison where you are being bombed regularly. What is the expectation there? Religious extremism is yet one other cause of said violent apartheid regime.
Damn, this guy's good.